I need an outfeed support for my table saw. I've kept this wrecked snowboard specifically for this idea, and now it's time to build it. I've used some perforated angle iron and a 2x4 as the main support. In an effort to clean up the shop, I'm using scraps for this build. If it turns out well, I'll rebuild it later with nicer materials and more attention to fit and finish. I picked out the straightest 2x4 for my scrap pile and cut a 15-degree angle on both ends of it. I'll use some plywood end caps and more ply scraps opposite to hold the legs on. For parts, I need 2 end caps, 4 leg supports, 4 legs, and 4 leg braces. I'm also angling the legs out 15 degrees for stability, so that's 15 degrees front and back and 15 degrees on either side. I'll need to cut an angle on the top of the legs so the slot in the finished pair will fit nicely over the 2x4 spine. As this is a prototype for me, I don't want to spend too much time getting everything perfect. However, I am giving everything a quick sand to knock down splinters and sharp edges. Just before I started assembling the legs, I noticed that I needed to have an angled block to set the leg braces in the correct position, so that the spine of the outfeed table would rest on the leg supports rather than on the tops of the legs. After fastening the end caps in place, I used a 3mm or 1/8 piece of plastic I had on hand as a spacer so the legs wouldn't be too tight. I wanted the legs to be easy to take off so I can pack it away when I don't need it, but after using it for a couple days I realized that I should have used a thinner spacer. The legs are stable enough, but more wobbly than I would have liked. I've used the binding mounting screws as I want the sliding surface to be as smooth as possible without any place for material to get caught up on. I put some paste wax on both sides of the joint to make removing the legs easier. Prior to the wax, the legs were a snug fit on the spine. After the wax, the legs were easy to take off.
Daddy, dinner's ready.
Okay.
I also applied paste wax to the top of the outfeed table. It was stickier than I expected at first, so I buffed it with a rag and it seemed more slippery. I suspect that the snowboard wax residue that was previously on the board was causing extra friction, and buffing it off did the trick. Ski and snowboard wax is actually designed to cause some friction, to melt a nano layer of snow between your board and the snow, and that's actually what the ski or snowboard glides on. Science. I had initially thought that the legs would be too loose and that they would fall off if I lifted the table from the middle, so here I picked it up by the legs. But as it turns out, with the legs at an angle, they sort of wedge into place if I lift it from the middle. Another tweak that I'll need to do is square off the rounded ends so the snowboard will stand up better when it's collapsed. Well, thanks for watching. God bless.